Welcome back to another tactical fly fisher video. Thanks for joining us. In this video, we're going to talk about the tuck cast. Now, what is the tuck cast? It's a style of casting popularized by George Harvey and Joe Humphreys. And it's a cast that gets your turnover of your leader to enter vertically. So your flies hit the water first, and then the rest of your leader piles up on top of those flies. And what does it do? Well, think back to this video that we shot recently, where we talked about depth adjustment and ways that you can adjust the depth of your drift and your flies, both with and without rigging changes. The tuck cast is a great way to be able to get your flies to sink faster, especially at the beginning of the drift, without having to change other aspects of your rig. So adding or subtracting weight, adding or subtracting tippet, that sort of thing. The tuck cast can get you down very quickly in a short distance so that your flies can hit in difficult spots like below shells or behind rocks, places where it's easy to make a cast and have your flies sail over the heads of trout before they have a chance to see them or eat them. When you're using the tuck cast, you are going to lose strike detection at the beginning of the drift when you don't have contact with your sighter or your indicator or whatever it is that you're using for strike detection. So understand that. But when you are in water that's deeper, where you need to be able to get down a little bit quicker and you're willing to sacrifice some of that strike detection at the beginning of the drift, maybe because you don't expect strikes there, then it's really useful in those situations to help you attain depth without making those other changes to your rig. So let's talk about how to execute the tuck cast, and hopefully it'll help you out next time you're on the water. Let's demonstrate how to do the tuck cast. So the tuck cast can be done from a variety of angles. You can do an off the side, you can do a little, wrist pivot and whatnot. But the easiest way to accomplish this accurately is to use more of a traditional overhead cast, like you would with a regular fly fishing line and leader. So I'm going to bring my elbow kind of in tight by my side and have my hand stop in front of my face. And that's going to make it so that I don't rotate too far back. What you don't want to do with this cast is use a stroke that pivots widely. You don't want to do this in fly fishing casts in general, but you don't want a stroke that pivots widely at the shoulder or with the elbow raised really high so that you can really drop that rod forward and back. What you're wanting to do with this cast is stop the back cast high right here and stop the forward cast just as high or higher, because you want that leader to form a nice tight loop just like you would with a dry fly cast and turn over behind you fully, and then as you're turning over in front, you need that weight that's on the end of your leader to hit and drop. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So bring that stroke in to your side, try and lock that wrist as much as possible. You might want to put your index finger on the cork if that helps. For me, I can do it both ways. I just try and avoid much breaking of the wrist. And then I'm going to make an energetic back cast. Wait until I feel the turnover of the fly behind me. And on a Euro line, it'll kind of pluck like a guitar string when that happens. If you've made enough energy in that back cast, you'll see the Euro line get tight and then go slack again. That's your signal to your hand that it's turned over. And then there's a couple variations you can use. We'll just do the normal tuck cast to begin with. I'm going to start with that energetic back cast, stop the rod high, wait till the fly hits behind me. We'll do that again. And then use an energetic forward cast and really stop it high. So that's the secret to the tuck cast. Most, a lot of normal fly casts, you might stop the rod tip down around your eye level or something like that. That's going to get turnover where the leader turns over nice and horizontally. But in this instance, we want that vertical turnover. So I stop the rod really high, and then that nymph hits and drops and really kind of falls with a bunch of slack. Now, if you want to increase the severity and the energy of the tuck to really drive those flies down as much as possible and to stack the maximum amount of slack in your leader on top of your flies, you can use what's called the downer and upper variation. At least that's what George Daniel called it in his book, Dynamic Nymphing. And it's basically the same part on the back cast. So I'm going to make a nice energetic back cast, stopping my back cast high, waiting for that fly to turn over. And then on the forward cast, I'm going to stop low initially. So almost like a normal forward cast, it's going to be about eye level. as my fly is turning over or passing my head, I'm then going to jut my arm out and up. So my initial cast, the energy of it is directed down, but then I jut my rod up. That's why it's called the downer and upper variation. So make your cast, down, up, down, up. It's a little bit of a tricky motion to get the timing right on, but once you have the timing, you can really drive that down. So let's do it one more time. Stop high, come down, extend. And what happens when you do that cast is you'll often see your sighter, if you're using a Euro nymphing leader, you'll see your sighter land on top of the plop, the rings where your nymph just hit. That's what happened on that last cast. And when you do that, you know you're stacking a whole bunch of slack in that tippet on top of where your fly's at, and it's going to basically free fall. So that downer and upper variation is great to get that maximum amount of slack on top of your fly. So the tuck cast, it's not a long distance cast. It doesn't work well, or at least it's hard to control once you get past about 30 feet max. So I tend to use the tuck cast mainly for shorter to medium casts and presentations. If you're casting way out in the middle of the river with an indicator rig or something, you can try tucking still, but it's just harder to do, especially without tangles. So work on short to medium ranges with this cast, and then understand that you're going to need a little more line and leader out than you would with a traditional turnover. With that normal horizontal cast, your full leader is turning over and then dropping, and you're getting maximum distance away from you with that cast. But I'm piling all the slack on the water with this cast, so I have to build in extra line here. So if I want to hit these bushes that are over here in front of me, I've got about 20 feet of leader out beyond my rod tip. So if you build that in with my 10-foot rod, let's say that's more or less a 30-foot cast, probably more like 27, 28. Now, if I want to hit that same spot with a tuck cast though, it's nice and close to the trees. I have to be careful, but I'm building in an extra 4 feet at least of line into that cast, and bam, I'm still now hitting that target nice and close to those branches. But it takes practice to understand how much extra you need to build in to the cast. And with the tuck cast, you can increase or decrease the amount of tuck to change the sink rate at the beginning of your cast. So you need to practice that. You need to understand, based on where you stop your cast and all the different variables that you can affect with that tuck cast, how the cast is then going to turn over and how much slack you do or do not need to add to that cast to make it hit your target. As with any other part of fly casting, it takes practice. Don't expect to be able to go out and just hit a target exactly where you want every time when you go out fishing. Spend some time in the backyard, set up a target, put a hula hoop or a dinner plate, something out there that you're going to hit repeatedly with a tuck cast at different distances. And then the other thing you can do is go out and dedicate an hour of your day on the river, or 30 minutes at the beginning or whatever, to just casting. Don't worry too much about whether you're catching fish then. Pick some targets, target lies on the river that you want to hit, and make sure that you can hit them accurately with the tuck cast. Experiment with the amount of line that you need to be able to do that correctly and consistently, and I know you're going to catch more fish. Thanks for watching this tactical fly fisher video. Hopefully it helped you understand the tuck cast a little bit more, both how to do it and what it's used for. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up on it, comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. And then come on over to tacticalflyfisher.com, and we've got all the gear and tying stuff that you need for your next adventure.